Welcome to Shift Happens podcast. I'm Camila Damati, CEO of Tona Business Consulting, and your host. I created this podcast after working closely with clients and noticing a common challenge. They all had questions about how to lead transformations effectively and successfully. Here in each episode, I sit down with senior leaders to explore their real life stories, lessons learned, and practical strategies for managing organizational change. This show is for you. So I would love to hear your questions, thoughts, and ideas on how we can make it better. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shift Happens podcast. Here, each week, we sit down with senior leaders from across industries to uncover the real stories behind managing change. From breakthrough wins to tough lessons learned, we dive deep into what it really takes to lead through uncertainty. So, whether you are a leader going through transformation or just love a good story about disruption, strategy, and resilience, you are in the right place. Because when shift happens, great leaders rise. Before we dive into the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Are you a leader navigating constant change and your team is looking to you for answers you don't have yet? The Change Leader program is here to help. At Tona Business Consulting, we work with leaders to turn chaos into clarity, retain your best people, and lead through disruption without losing trust, momentum, or your own sanity. So if you're facing restructuring, AI shifts, disengagement, or just need your people to rally behind you again, let's talk. Reach out or head over to tonabusiness.com to find out more. All right, now on to the show. Today, we welcome Joe Lambert, a visionary leader, AI pioneer, and investor whose impact spans industries and generations. Since the early 80s, Joe has been integrating artificial intelligence into business and life, managing over $10 billion in assets and leading groundbreaking ventures in finance, real estate, and media. He's also the creator of Teen Star, the popular talent platform he sold to ABC, and a driving force behind numerous philanthropic and faith based initiatives. Get ready for a fascinating conversation on innovation, leadership, and lasting impact. Welcome, Joe, to Shift Happens podcast.
Thank you very much. And I don't know who you're talking about. That's too good of an introduction.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I mean, I was impressed with all your background. I mean, even in our last conversation, and
Yeah,
as I go through all everything you've done, it is very impressive. So, thank you for your time today, Joe.
you
And I
bet.
think we can start talking about yourself, your experience, your current projects. Tell me a little bit
Okay.
about you, Joe.
Well, sure. I certainly have done an eclectic group of things in my life. This isn't my first rodeo on many fronts, as an investment banker and money manager. I've managed one of the largest charities in America. With a track record in the last 20 years, it puts me in the top fifth percentile of money managers in America in Lipper's universe. And so I got out of college and started my career in finance, and that's what I've done. Well, I was doing very successful at that, and then I noticed when we went through not the pandemic, that was another crisis. When you're as old as I am, you've gone through a fairly few many crises, and we had the real estate collapse in 2008 and all the stuff that was going on there, and of course the pandemic as well. But in 2008, we were in another unique circumstance in America, and that circumstance was the economy was collapsing. It was in very serious, condition, and I felt that I needed to give back something and highlight a certain area that I thought was important to our youth of America. And what that was is that performing arts is an overlooked, uh, I guess, entity within the school systems and the
Mhm.
budgeting that the schools cut. They're not going to cut the football programs because that drives revenues. But when it comes to performing arts, that doesn't drive much in revenue. So
Yeah.
you're on your own as far as that's concerned. Well, what a lot
Mhm.
of people don't realize is that performing arts and those kids that are involved in that have higher math scores because they're engaging so many other parts of their brain, and they end up doing very well, and they forget how important that was. Well, I wanted to highlight how important that was and the connections that I had made in the industry. So, in about 2010, when budgets in the school systems were being cut drastically, I said, I
Mhm.
need to do something about this. So, I created this nonprofit, which is now known as Teen Star. And the idea was to give proceeds back to the performing arts departments in our schools to support youth in performing arts. And that was the original objective that we had, and we still do that now. But we're 15 years later, and the impact that I thought we were going to have was nowhere near as great as it actually did. My vision was to try to do one small thing, and then it turned into this, much more massive thing. It got the national attention in our second season because I got celebrity judges like Kenny Loggins and Jimmy Messina, J.R. Richards for the younger crowd that might know
Mhm.
Dishwalla and their big popular song "Counting Blue Cars." They were my celebrity judges that I brought in. Now, what Teen Star is about is it's a show that we culminates in a show once a year, and we do a lot of auditions all across the Santa Barbara County area. And
Mhm.
so we have hundreds that audition, and then we bring it down to the top 10. Very much what like American Idol does, in
Yes.
that regard.
Hmm.
However, ours is more of just focused on youth and try to development in that regard. And so as the world was changing back in 2008 and 10, this change factor that came in motivated me and drove me to actually do something to make a difference in our community. Now, that difference in our community has resulted in hundreds of kids pursuing a goal and a dream. And the idea was if you get a youth pursuing a goal, idea, or a dream, it keeps them from doing negative behaviors like,
Absolutely.
idle time into drugs and alcohol and different things like that. They just don't have time as much. And that's kind of the model that I derived from this. So,
Mhm.
we've been very successful at being able to drive revenues of probably over $700,000 to our local school systems for the performing arts departments. We have been what I think is even more impactful and successful is that kids have learned how to pursue a goal and a dream because when they're in our program, is we're about fostering confidence and building, that self-esteem as opposed to
Mhm.
maybe like a Simon Cowell in American Idol, whose whole objective is for the show and try to tear people apart. You know,
Mm.
we don't
Yeah.
do that. We build people up, encourage them to pursue their dreams. And I can't tell you after 15 years of doing this, how many kids have just they say that Teen Star has changed their lives, Well, I
Mhm.
didn't think we'd have that kind of impact, and that's probably been more of the impact of what it's meant to the kids' lives because for one night, for 2.5 minutes, the stage is all on them and all the eyes and the thousands of people that are watching them while they're nervous. It gets them that opportunity. It's a showcasing of their talent. So there's a lot that I have said there. There's a lot that's going on, and there's probably a lot more vision that we could talk about too. But I don't know. Maybe I'll stop there and let you jump in with a question or two.
Absolutely. And I love it because we are just not talking about changing, I mean, helping leaders to go through change. You are a leader driving change, but the change on people's life. I think it's so inspiring and impactful. As we think about that experience, as you went through, right, like those 15 years, What were the learnings as you were driving change? What made it so successful? Because you said that you had a vision and it was much bigger, ended up being much bigger than that. So, in your opinion, what drove the success of this initiative and this change?
Well, I think that there's got to be somebody who's going to drive the process, and of course that was me. But what was happening is that I have such passion for youth, and working with
Mm-hmm.
them, that I wanted to really, make a difference. But the other thing, in every other organization I've led, there's one key element that really makes something more successful, and that's not to be afraid to ask the question of yourself, what went right, what went wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and so we do a lot of self-evaluation and we say, how can we make this better? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's really funny because when I started out this, it was more of a promotional idea with
Mm-hmm.
the local media that said, "Hey, why don't you run a talent competition?" Well, I had never done that before in my life. I did some performing in theater, and I did a lot of public speaking in the investment world.
Mm-hmm.
Over 200 seminars a year, traveling the world doing that. But I had never run a talent competition before. I
You were
and what I
brave.
said. Yeah, what I said to the media is, "Go, why don't you do that?" And I go, "Well, I'm a big fan of American Idol. I can do that."
Okay. Uh-huh.
And so I knew nothing about it. But the point that really happens here is that you got to be driven and passionate about something, but you also have to ask yourself the hard questions of yourself. Well, we did this. Now, what can we learn? How can we make this better? It's about building a better mousetrap every year, and it's culminated to where I've had. It's such a professional done show that many of the people, like Randy Spendlove, who is president of Paramount Pictures music division, he was a
Mm-hmm.
celebrity judge, and he says this is a one of the most professional shows I've seen. And he's running Paramount Pictures.
Wow.
So he enjoyed it. And then that attracted a former celebrity. Well, he's still a celebrity, Randy Jackson. I don't know if you know that name.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of the founding judges of American Idol. Well, he came on and was a celebrity judge for Teen Star. And
Yes.
so I think that, leaders need to really be able to ask themselves the question, instead of kind of being afraid of criticism and what it might mean
Mm-hmm.
to their ego, or the fact that they could, be taken down a few notches. Get that
Mm-hmm.
ego out of the way. Get it out of the way and just ask yourself these hard questions. What can we do to be better? Not preserve your image or your you know who you are, but the fact is you're willing to look at the hard things to make something better. That is the key, I think, to the element to success and pretty much about anything that you do. A good self-evaluation where you're not afraid and you can be secure in what you're doing, but to really let yourself be vulnerable.
That's so important. I think overall, what we see in many companies is this bubble around the executives, right? Where there's no opportunity for feedback, as you were saying,
Yeah,
and many times because maybe that's not that interesting to hear that, right, as you were saying, and
yeah.
and have a humble attitude towards that, be willing to learn and this behavior to grow and to do better and better, right?
Yeah. And so catapulting from that, where we're going now is that you kind of have to have a vision of where what you think, a larger picture vision, so that it actually keeps you motivated and keep you going and saying, okay, I've built a better mousetrap, but really, where am I going with this? That's the whole thing. First off, I get a lot of satisfaction that we're making a difference in kids' lives. That's a big
Mm-hmm.
deal to me. I said that a couple times already, but a leader has to have vision of where they want to go with this. And what I did is actually from probably second season into Teen Star after 15 years of doing this, I started
Mm-hmm.
designing the whole thing to where, what if I took this national? What would it look like? And so I started building the systems within Teen Star that can be, I guess, duplicated. So
Mm-hmm.
that what happens is that you could drive this process, but somebody else could come in and actually say, "Well, I'd like to do a Teen Star in my community because you're making a big difference in your community." And
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Okay, well, so then I better design everything that's turnkey so that we can actually catapult this and give it away, so to speak, in other
Yes.
parts of the country."
Have
Well,
systems.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did is a couple of years ago, I sat down and wrote out a fairly sophisticated business plan of how that would actually work. Now, I've been in
Mm-hmm.
business for a long time, and so I got a good business plan, and now we're in the issue of trying to raise some capital so that we can have a headquarters where we can
Mm-hmm.
run things from, revamp our whole website, do that so that people can access it. And then now they can go in their own communities and do the same thing, raise capital for the community, for performing arts, highlight the talent that's in the community. The big benefit of this towards the end game is that if we have this like a March Madness where you have all these college basketball teams, 64 you start out with, the bracketing then gets whittled down to this region,
Mm-hmm.
to that region, and then you get the final four and the final two, and you crown a winner. I've designed the business plan around that. So every community in America can have a teen star and then send their top talent to the next level,
Mm-hmm.
and then from that level, you can send it to the next level until you end up doing a big finale show in Hollywood or something like that, where it would be, on primetime TV and competing with the other shows. Although I think the difference, the other shows like American Idol or The Voice or something, the difference with Teen Star is it has a grassroots element to the whole thing. And it's only focused on uh, 12 to 19-year olds. So it's a younger, crowd that we're appealing to. But now we've got a whole model in place. We're ready to move the thing nationally, and we're just now starting to look for executive producers in the communities around America that would be interested in doing the same model because we've done it successfully in Santa Barbara for 15 years.
I see. So it's something that you are currently working on to
Correct.
expand. So
Yeah.
you're ready for that, as I understand. You built systems and you did the business plan and you're ready to go.
Yep. And so the biggest thing that in presenting this in the Hollywood types, or a bunch of them are really interested. The first thing that comes out of their mouth, they said, "Well, you've done the hard thing. You have proof of concept. It's already
Exactly.
15 years of proof of concept that this thing is working." And some people come up with business ideas that just don't even have a proof of concept. They just have a
Mm-hmm.
concept. We've proved it out for 15 years. It works. So
Yes. Yes. So, yes, no question about that. Okay. I love it. I mean, and for sure, we are going to
mhm.
have in the show notes more details for anyone that wants to contact you as well,
Great.
to that who might be interested to partner with you. That is
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
So, and if I think about Joe, considering all your experience, of course, during the journey of our lives, I would say there are always failures. There are always things that don't go the way we expect. Would you share any experience where something didn't go well, and what did you learn, and what would you do different after that?
Well, I
Mm,
think that in kind of, evaluating what the failures are, I would have to say that the whole, excuse me for coughing. I would say that the whole experience of Teen Star and the reason why it's successful is because it was a whole series of failures along the way. And, my first audition that I auditioned for anything in performing arts, I was miserable. I did a miserable audition.
mm,
And I was embarrassed, and even the judges who were there, it was just a hard thing to go through. And so what I did is I took that failure that I did personally, in performing arts, and I applied an application that made it much more of a positive experience for anybody who was auditioning. We actually cared and we actually would pay attention. And so I would say that when we designed it, it was a whole series of things that were not going right, and I wanted to make a difference that way. So some of the potential failures could have been it takes some capital to actually do the show. And some of those failures could have been not raising enough capital to do the show.
Mm-hmm.
And 15 years we've raised capital enough to do the shows and give some away every year. That's always a really scary part of it. I would say one of the biggest failures that could not make this thing move forward is me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that and I laugh about that, it's because I'm doing too much. I need to be able to bring in and recruit more talent to take over
Mm-hmm.
certain departments that I'm doing too much of. I need to be the leader that is going to empower people and put them in place, not the leader that's going to be doing everything, even though I have
Mm-hmm.
done everything and I know the process program well. I have got to, if it's going to succeed, I have got to learn to be able to get out of the way, but put the right people in place to do the jobs and all the departments that we have that are involved in that. If
Mm-hmm.
and so my failure would be and can be, and I'm scared about this, is if something happened to me, the thing would die.
Mm-hmm.
If I died, it would die with it. That's not good leadership, I think. I think that you've got to have a succession plan in place in order
Mm-hmm.
for you to create not only a good program, but legacy for other people and in the future.
Yes. Oh, yes. I can relate so much to what you're saying. I mean, hiring the right people, empowering them, because sometimes you hire the right people, but you don't get out of the way for them to be successful, right? But be
Yeah,
there for them at the same time, to coach, to guide, but not be in the way micromanaging them, right?
yeah,
If I
right.
hear you well.
Hmm.
So yeah, that is so important. And when you say about if I die, it dies with me, but really as you build your team and build the motivation and build I mean, and they're all so engaged, because I think the engagement is so key on that as well, right, Joe?
Hmm.
Because if they are motivated, they're happy, they have this vision, they share the vision, they see the impact, things kind of go more naturally, right?
Yeah,
It just flows because you have the
yeah,
right people motivated, engaged, empowered,
yep,
right?
yep.
I love
So
it. That's very interesting. And let me ask you this. If you need to manage like resistance, if there's any time of your life that you had to manage no resistance with your team, with any change, any transformation that was going on, would you have any advice to the audience? Or how you normally manage resistance?
the first thing is you get resistance. Instead of being defensive, listen. Listen to what the person is saying. Even good counseling techniques. My degree, an undergraduate degree, was in psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And and some of the biggest, problems is that people don't really listen and understand what somebody is really saying to them. So, listening is, I think, a real key aspect of trying to discover what is somebody really objecting to, what is the real problem, and then you kind of work through that to try to, uncover, unpeel the onion to find what's really going on in the center of it. So it's really like, that. And I guess an onion's probably a good example because, if you're really listening and trying to unpeel that oven or onion, you actually might cry in the process.
I love it. I never heard that association, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah. So,
Yes, I think being there and listen, being present. right? And I think sometimes what happens, what I've seen, Joe, I don't know if you agree, is sometimes leaders can struggle to listen to people because people may not trust the leader to go there and have an open conversation. So there are so many elements related to this listening, right? To this
Yeah.
connection between leader and the other employees. So but absolutely. And one of the things that I always say is that a good habit that I learned from a mentor in the past is that if someone comes to you to talk to you, close computer, put your cell phone on the side, look and show, I am 100% with you right now. I am listening to you. Eye contact and pause, don't interrupt and let it go.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is so simple, but sometimes with the crazy life, we are like
Hmm.
this. Oh,
Oh,
just a
sure.
moment. Okay, I have something else. And then you are not there present for the person, right?
Right. Right. So,
That is great. And communication wise, I'd like to ask you. So, how do you have any best practice that you like to share on how to communicate to your team during transformations?
well, I think that when
Mm.
I was in psychology at my college, we did a
Mm.
lot of studies on trusting behavior, and
Okay.
we
Mm.
wanted to discover what was really how is somebody going to really trust you? Is it the kind of style where you're an assertive counselor or you're a reflective counselor? Okay,
Okay.
the assertive counselor is one that's going to, you know, give all kinds of suggestion and come at you and put all kinds of things, you know, towards you, and it gets more aggressive, and you be more active. Or reflective. Reflective is somebody says something to you, you reflect back to them what they said. And
Mm-hmm.
we had found that in this psychological study that we did, that the most trusting behavior that the people who were in the counseling session trusted the person more when they did a reflective style of counseling. Reflective style means you're going to actually listen to them. They and repeat back what they said to you. Did I
Mm-hmm.
understand that correctly? That's all part
Mm-hmm.
of the listening thing, but reflective is much more trusting than assertive. And I think that would be a real key element to leaders is they could learn how to listen better and then reflect back to that person what was being said in the communication process. So and we proved out that it's a much more trusting situation and scenario to do that. We proved out a lot of other things, how you set up the room, the chairs, and everything like that. So, but
Mm-hmm.
that was the one thing we were looking for, and we had to control all the other variables. So, anyhow, that's what I would say.
Wow, that's very interesting. I took notes here, reflective behavior, listen and repeat. To
Yes.
be honest, I fail on the repeating because I'm anxious to respond back. So that's maybe something I need to work more on.
Did you say that you fail at repeating and that you need to
Repeating,
work more on that?
on
Did you see what
repeating.
I did? I'm reflecting you.
There you go. I trust you more for that, Joe.
There you go.
Oh, that's amazing. I wish we could, spend more hours talking. It's unfortunately it's about time to wrap up. I'm
Okay.
loving everything that I'm listening, and I took so many great things about what went right, what went wrong. Ask the question, assessment, be humble, right? Have a passion about what you do, have a vision, share the vision, do a good job hiring, empowering your people and working on the engagement so you all share the vision, you're all aligned, and you are all working towards the same goal.
Hmm.
Um, Listen, because it's a real problem that sometimes and a lot of times people don't listen, and be reflective, listen and repeat. I love it. And I love to summarize because it's just so many wonderful things and just summarizing all these great learnings that I have with you today, Joe. Thank you very
Well,
much.
Camilla, you did a great job in listening to me because you repeated back about the whole conversation. Good job on your part.
Oh, thank you. See, I'm learning. I'm repeating now. Okay, I'll do that more. All right. Do you have any final words you would like to share?
No, I think that you know, just be passionate about what you do, have a vision, you know, respect the people you work with, you know, care about them, let them know that and listen.
Awesome. Thank you so much again.
Okay.
And thank you to my audience. I hope you enjoyed these conversations as much as I did. And well, see you soon for one more episode of Shift Happens podcast. Bye bye.
Bye bye.